I wish I could tell you this video is going to be clickbait. This is the first time ever that I'm actually thinking to myself as I record this that I wish I can tell you, you just clicked on clickbait, but it's not. This is an evil, vile, disturbing, preposterous, disgusting, any word you could think of story that's really going to probably challenge your thought process by the time it's over. You see these three individuals? I'm going to put pictures up right here. 1, 2, 3. All three of them individuals have one thing in common. And I didn't know that I would run into this when I dived into the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole actually being more like a demon hole. Because when you uncover these three individuals, you realize that these humans are the worst that humanity has to offer. Truly. They're not just the worst that humanity has to offer, but I believe they're demonically possessed. Because what they did, no human in their right mind would do what they are accused of, and in 2 instances actually convicted of that I can find. So I came across the name Travion Hughes, and this is Travion right here. He was watching his 13-week-old baby, and he brought his 13-week-old baby to the hospital. But let's backtrack a little bit. He didn't just bring him to the hospital. The EMT came to his house because the baby was choking. He didn't do CPR on the baby, but the girlfriend of his brother did CPR on the baby while she was online with 911, and 911 had a protocol that they set up, and they said, hey, do this. They told her how to do CPR for an infant. They have all that in line, so they guided her through the process. The whole time, Travion is just pacing around. He's not trying to help. He's more like in panic state than in crisis state, to where he's trying to help his child. So they get to the hospital, and when they get to the hospital, all hell breaks loose. Travion Jr., that was the baby's name, who was 13 weeks old, who was also born prematurely. Travion Jr.'s mother winds up making it to the hospital because while this was all happening, she was at work. So they talked to her on the cell phone. She gets to the hospital. When she gets to the hospital, she's wanting to know what's going on with her baby. By this time, the medical staff, the doctor, pulled the police officer aside because there was so much chaos in the hospital because the crisis turned into panic, and all the family members were in the hospital hooting, hollering, yelling, screaming, crying, the whole 9 yards. The doctor pulled the police officer to the side and said, can I show you something? And she had a jar. And inside the jar was a little pink rag. And she said, this is what we found in the baby's esophagus. And we had to manually pull it out with some tongs out the baby's esophagus. This innocent baby has already passed away. The family finds out the baby's passed away. They want to know what happened. And so the story was that Travion, the father of the baby, had cleaned the baby down, stepped away, and realized he left a baby wipe on his baby's chest. Now, somewhere along the line, he's assuming, and he's telling the detectives, who later, you can see the police officers, 3 police officers. One is a lady and one is a man. And another police officer is explaining to them what happens when they get to the hospital. And you could see when he tells them what happened, both their faces looked not just in shock, but it's almost like they saw something that was horror filled. Like they witnessed something that was so grotesque, so disgusting, that both of these police officers, one was a woman and one was a man, that their faces almost turned blue. That's how disgusted they were on what they were hearing. And then they were showed the towel, the wet wipe that was pulled out this little bitty baby's throat. Now, according to Travion, him right here, this evil man, he said that the baby must have taken the towel, chewed on it, and swallowed it. Well, the doctors were like, I don't think that's possible. The doctors advised the police officers to investigate. Detectives got involved. They called in Travion's brother's girlfriend. They spoke to her. And when they spoke to her, she was all over the place too. The whole family was all over the place. Anyway, her stuff didn't line up with Travion's statement. And so when Travion's inside the detective station, this is a short period after his child had just died, his junior. He named him after himself. And he's inside the interrogation room while they're waiting for him. And you can see him, he's just chapping. He's singing, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. Yeah, he's singing some rap music, you know what I mean? And then he realizes a camera. He said, oh, they got a camera in here. And he kind of settles down, starts messing with his watch. The detective's coming in. He's like, I want to call my lawyer. Well, you want to call your lawyer? So he lawyers up instantly. And they say, good luck. He said, what you mean good luck? Good luck with your case. And he's like, what you mean, officer, good luck? What that means? And so the officer, I'm saying, you don't want to talk to us. You don't. I'm just walking out saying, good luck with your case. You're being arrested for the murder of your 13-week-old son. And he's like, oh, I didn't do nothing. Y'all trying to pin this on me. The hospital killed my baby. Fast forward to when he eventually gets to trial. And he maintains his innocence the whole time. He eventually goes to trial. The jury finds him guilty. The whole time, his baby's mother is sticking with him on this case. She even goes so far as to say during the victim impact statement, she's still standing up for Travion. It was proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he unalived his own son, who was 13 weeks old, born prematurely, might I add. Yeah, go ahead and puke. That's what I think, too, I want to do. I want to puke on him. Anyway, she said, y'all is making a mistake. And I quote, y'all is making a mistake. That's what she told the judge during sentencing. She thought, and she said that the hospital was the one who killed her child, who unalived her child. And at the hospital, she was going to prove it before it was over. He appealed this case and he lost. We're in 2025. This case happened in 2022. So he got found guilty by a jury. His uncle, right, went to give an impact statement via Skype. And his uncle said, I hope my nephew never gets out of prison. I hope he never sees the light of day. He said, I usually would never say something like this or wish jail or prison on my worst enemies. He said, but what that boy did to a helpless, innocent, 13-week-old child who's defenseless is unacceptable. And there was other family members who spoke against him too. And so he's locked up for that. Now, when I decided to look this case up, I Googled type, because I didn't remember the case. I typed in clack, 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 clack. Baby is unalived due to wet wipe being shoved down his throat. Bam! More cases popped up. So now I'm interested. My antennas go up. And I start looking. I tell my wife, I say, look, they got more than one case where these babies are being unalived with wet wipes. And so the next case I ran into was of this fool. Yeah, look at this savage. All three of them are savages. You got sick, sicker, and the sickest in no particular order. All three of them. Here they go again. Now let's get back to Chelsea. Chelsea Cooley, she's watching her boyfriend's 12-week-old baby. 12 weeks. She, all of a sudden, makes a call to 911 and says that the baby's not breathing. They tell her how to do CPR and everything. Long story short, when the cops start going over her statements and looking at the time she called the police and start looking at her phone records, there was a large pause between text messages and what she said. So the baby gets to the hospital. By the time the baby gets to the hospital, the baby's already gone. The baby's blue. EMTs rush the baby to the hospital. When the baby gets to the hospital, they don't just find one wet wipe shoved in the baby's throat, but they found four wet wipes shoved down this little baby's throat, 12 weeks old. Listen, I know we all have thought about doing bad things, but there's very few of us who think about unaliving a 13 and 12-week-old baby. That's as sick as you can get. They should take these people out back and shove wet wipes down their throat until they are dead once they're convicted, because I do believe in due process. Now, let me tell you what happens. So she says there's also an 11-year-old girl who's the daughter of the little boy who was unalived by this fool, Chelsea. And she said that she thinks that the 11-year-old girl, who's the sister of the little boy, she shoved the 4 wet wipes down the baby's throat. When the detectives investigated and questioned the neighbor recalls, before seeing cops show up at the condo, the neighbor recalls hearing a baby cry shortly before everything went down, about some short period of time, and remembers hearing a baby cry and remember hearing a woman screaming, "Shut the F up. Why don't you just shut the F up?" So Chelsea decided to oblige herself and make the baby shut up. So she shoved 4 wet wipes down this infant's throat. And then we're going back to Travion. His defense claims that the baby bundled up the wet wipes and put them down his own throat. A baby's, according to testimony in all these cases, there's no way that an infant's motor skills can take a wet wipe, ball it up, and shove it down his throat. And even the swallowing reflexes, even of an infant, work the same way as an adult. Not the same strength or nothing, but their tongue still works. And if you put something in their mouth that they don't want there, they're going to try to push it out, just like me and you would try to push it out. And so I thought, before we get to the last case, why don't I take these wet wipes right here, Lysol wet wipes that my wife has. I'm going to open these wet wipes, and I am literally going to do this right now. So bear with me while I open these wet wipes. So now the wet wipes are open. I am a 40-something-year-old adult who still has my faculties. Here's the wet wipe. Now picture me being a 12-month-old baby or a 13-month-old baby, right? So both these little boys, the first two we talked about, we still got one more to talk about, a little girl. Sad, tragic. Stick around. This is the wet wipe. I'm an adult. I'm going to try to shove it in my mouth, not balled up. Check it out. This is nasty. It's a Lysol wipe. I mean, that's really oh, that's disgusting. Oh, that is nasty. And so there's chemicals on these wipes. They're used to wipe a baby's butt, not to shove in a baby's mouth. They're used to clean their bottom of feces. Keep them clean and comfortable and happy. That's what you should be doing with babies. Oh, I still taste this nasty. So imagine this baby's looking up in his father's eye or looking up in his stepmother's eyes while they're shoving this. Here we go again. I'm not even balling it up. But look, this is what they did. This is what them demons did. They balled it up like this. Look. I tried to shove that. Imagine 4 of these being shoved down the baby's throat who's 12 weeks old and who's counting on this woman who is his future stepmother to defend him. And she shoves 4 of these down his throat. And then they claim that the baby shoved them deep into their esophagus. When medical professionals have to pull something out your esophagus, it's lodged deep in there. This is what they did. They balled these things up and shoved them down the baby's throat. Yeah, that's right. Chelsea Coolidge, she decides, unlike Travion, he went to trial and still maintains his innocence. He's guilty. She actually took responsibility after blaming an 11-year-old stepdaughter. She finally took responsibility at trial, and she was sentenced to life in prison. She should have got death, and they should have shoved 400 of these things down her throat. That's what they should have did. Hey, you might think it's too harsh, but how do we make a statement? I'm not finished. So she takes responsibility. She's convicted. I don't know. You can't imagine how that little girl is going to grow up the rest of her life knowing that she was accused of taking her little 12-week-old brother's life. She said the reason she didn't hear nothing, the last word that anybody heard was that she went in there to see her little brother before she started playing her video games, and she told him she loved him. And she puts the earphones on her ears, and she's playing the video games, Xbox or whatever. And so she don't hear nothing that happens. You know, that's what 11-year-olds do when they gaming, whatever. But for this savage fool, this evil, savage woman, Chelsea, to put that on that 11-year-old girl, that makes what she did that much more evil. And that was her stepkid. Doesn't matter. She should still get 40 shoved down her throat. So the last person I want to talk about is Jason Napier. He's from Florida. She's from Pennsylvania. He's from Ohio. We get all 2016 swing states involved here. That's right. And notice something else. It's different color and different sexes involved in this. It's not a color issue. It's not a sex issue. Male, female, black, white, all represented, all shoving towels down babies' throats. Jason Napier, he's watching his own 2 sons. He has an 18-month-old son and a 12-week-old son. And he's watching them. And all of a sudden, he just like the other ones, he's got to call 911. He calls 911. When 911 gets to his house, his 12-week-old baby boy is basically have to be rushed to the emergency room, where he also passes away, and they also find another one of these shoved down his throat, balled up. They had to pull it out. This one was lodged so far that they literally said that they don't understand how a child could have got it deep into his esophagus. Medical professionals who study swallowing, who study motor skills, said it's impossible for a 12-week-old to do that. Their fingers don't work like that yet. Their mouth doesn't work like that yet. And you just show me, try to eat this thing. So he blamed it on his 18-month-old. He said he walked out and his 18-month-old baby must have shoved it down his 12-week-old baby. Also another instance, the neighbor heard him. No, not the neighbor. One of his family members they had other kids. They were bringing the older kids to Chuck E. Cheese or something. And he remembers before leaving, Jason telling his son, why don't you shut the F up? The one who was crying. I wish he would just shut the F up. Notice they all got something in common. They want to shut their babies up. That's why these children who are having kids, we need to teach them better in the school system. They don't know how to raise kids. They're kids on their own. So they shoving these down their throat. Like I said, I thought about some bad things. But I ain't never thought about hurting no infant, man. That's the sickest, depraved type of mindset you can have. This is some crazy stuff. This is wicked and evil. I didn't want to cover this, but I had to. Go look it up. Travion Hughes, Chelsea Cooley, and Jason Napier. All of them in the same time period too, around 2021 and 2022. These are all in the same period. And it's almost like this triangle. Trace Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida. You could trace it almost like a Bermuda Triangle. And I'm not trying to get, overly supernatural here, but I believe that some kind of demonic portal was opened for a season and these demons overpowered these weak humans who were probably already struggling and wicked anyway and caused them to unalive their own children, y'all. This breaks my heart. Go find your kids. If you have a baby, give them a hug and kiss. Tell them how much you love them. Even though they don't understand it at 12 weeks, they know it. Something in them tells them that you love them. You got to tell them. We got to tell our children we love them. Kiss them on side the face. I got to do a better job. We all got to do a better job. But what these individuals did is repulsive. Anyway, give the Pen and the Shank a like and subscribe. Up and coming YouTube channel, garage style. I'm going to give it to you raw. Like I said before in my other videos. I ain't no professor when it comes to research of issues like this. I don't have no degree in journalism. But I see something and I speak up. And I'm speaking up for the innocent babies all across the world. And if you see somebody you think something's going wrong, make a move, make a phone call, get involved. Don't sit on the sideline. And I hope all these individuals die in prison where they belong. I couldn't find out what happened to Jason Napier. He's out of Florida. Y'all can go look him up. I hadn't seen where he went to trial yet. He was just arrested. It took him years to arrest him to build a case on him. But anyway, give the Pen and the Shank a like and subscribe. Let's get it.